Hey y'all, Tanny Cooks here, and today I'm going to show you how to make an absolutely delicious recipe. Something that's not the typical. I'm going to show you how to make a delicious kale salad, but we're going to use roasted grape tomatoes. So we're going to roast these grape tomatoes with some onions and delicious seasonings, and then mix them with our kale for a delicious salad that is very tasty and unexpected. So let's get to cooking. I have this 2-pound package of Juno Bites red grape tomatoes. They are different from cherry tomatoes because these are shaped more like grapes. And I believe they have a few less carbs than cherry tomatoes. I'm going to wash them with cool water. And my favorite way to wash my produce is, of course, with white vinegar. You can also use baking soda and water to wash your produce, or even buy a pre-made produce wash from the store. Next up, I'm going to drain them in my colander and rinse them off with just cool water to get the vinegary part off. And then I'm going to be sure that I dry them out. It's important to dry them because we're going to roast these tomatoes. So now that that's done, I'm taking a look at my seasonings. I'm using olive oil and a few dried seasonings as well as some red onion. So I have a small 8x8 container and I'm adding about a half a tablespoon of olive oil. And now I'm adding my grape tomatoes to them carefully. Now you can certainly use a bigger pan if you like. It just happens to be this is what I use this day. So what I like to do instead of roasting all of my tomatoes whole is cut some of them in half. This probably isn't really necessary because some of them will burst as they cook, but I want to be sure that some of that juice releases by having some of my tomatoes open. So I just use a small paring knife and I pick some up and I cut them in half. So now I'm adding my olive oil and just another half of a tablespoon. So all in all, 1 tablespoon to help the seasonings to adhere. I'm adding onion powder, garlic powder or granulated garlic if you want to be a perfectionist of what's written on my bottle, and some ground black pepper. Next up, I'm adding some minced garlic, just about a tablespoon. You can chop fresh garlic if you prefer. I'm going to pop these tomatoes in my oven at 425 degrees for about 15 to 20 minutes uncovered. And while that's going, I'm going to prep my onions. So my onions are sliced thinly and I just added a small amount of olive oil. And then I'm going to set these to the side because I'm going to mix them with my tomatoes halfway through the tomato cooking process. So at about 5 or 10 minutes. While my tomatoes are cooking, I'm going to prep my beautiful kale. I keep it in a mason jar and water if I need to keep it fresh for a couple of days after buying it. Absolutely gorgeous. I'm going to wash my kale with cool water and white vinegar. This is my old trusty salad spinner. You pull the string to make the bowl spin. It's a basket inside the bowl and it spins. And then if you want to stop the bowl, you just press that button. They make a lot of new versions of this, so this is just a great tool to have. But I have my kale inside the basket, inside the bowl, and then the water drains outside the basket to get it dry. I'm peeling the leaves off of the tough stems because we're going to be eating this kale raw. I don't want the stems in there. You can save these stems to juice them for the nutrition. If I was cooking this kale, then I would leave some of those stems in because they will cook down after a period of time. So I'm just going to dress my kale leaves by adding a little bit of olive oil, just about a tablespoon. And then I'm going to add about a tablespoon of red wine vinegar. And then with a gloved hand, I'm going to massage the oil and vinegar into the kale leaves. And that's actually going to break down some of the fiberness of the kale leaves and make the kale thinner and softer. So to be a little bit easier to eat in a salad form. But you don't need as much oil as I used here because you will have some oil from your roasted tomatoes, of course. But this is massaged kale. My tomatoes have been roasting for about 9 minutes, so I took them out of the oven. I'm giving them a quick stir. You can see all of that beautiful juice in there. It's very, very fragrant with the garlic. So now, halfway through the tomato cooking process, I'm just going to add in my sliced red onions because I don't want them to get too dark and wither up in the high heat that we're roasted in. So I'm giving it a light stir. Remember, there is oil on the tomatoes. So once we give that a stir, we're going to pop this back in the oven for the rest of the cooking time. And after about 8 to 10 more minutes, you can see that my tomatoes are soft as well as my onions are soft, but they're not burnt or scorched. And this is exactly what I want to see. And all that delicious juice is going to be yummy in our salad. So let's mix it all together. My massaged kale has been sitting to the side. And now I'm going to add my warm roasted tomatoes. So the kale is raw, the tomatoes are cooked and warm. So I'm adding in the tomatoes, the onions, and the juice of the tomatoes. Because remember, it's been seasoned with garlic and onion, so we want to get all that yumminess in the bowl. And now all we're going to do is just lightly toss it. This is an absolutely delicious side dish that you can pair with any protein, meat, or beans, or you can just eat it as is for a nice simple kale salad. Thank you so much for watching this video. Please click the playlist to see my other side dish recipes and my other vegetarian recipes that you might be interested in eating this summer. Thank you for watching.